Welcome to the Big Life Podcast, where dreams aren't just imagined, they're built brick by brick, belief by belief. Hosted by Neal Oates Jr. and Robin Lewis, this show is your invitation to discover your amazing capabilities, invest in your growth, and unleash your potential in ways you've only dreamed of. Join Neal and Robin as they dive deep into stories, insights, and tools designed to inspire you to show up big, live intentionally, and give yourself away for the betterment of those around you. Get ready to rise to what you're truly worthy of. The Big Life starts now.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Big Life Podcast, where we help purpose-driven business owners to lead with belief, to grow with purpose, and to build what lasts.
So we are your host. I'm Neal Oates Jr. and
my name is Robin Lewis, and today we're tackling one of the most defining shifts in business leadership. We're talking today about moving from working in the business to working on the business.
This is going to be a great conversation, Robin. But before we start that conversation, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited about this subject. This is one of those things that I hear a lot and I see a lot. And a lot of times when you see a company stagnate, what we're about to talk about today is what it's all about, Neal. So I'm really excited for you and I to kind of share with our listeners today on this topic.
Robin,
how you doing, man?
So I am doing fantastic. I'm excited to be here, and part of the reason I'm so excited is because I know that we have found ourselves doing this very same thing, working in the business and not on the business, but then also coaching some of our clients through this has really given us a 360 perspective of what this looks like. And so here's what Robin and I want to remind you of or challenge you with is that if you're always in the weeds, wearing all the hats. Now, we're especially talking to our owners, our CEOs, our entrepreneurs, maybe of those small businesses or those startups. If you're always solving all of the problems and wondering why you can't get ahead, Robin and I, the Big Life Podcast, we see you. Right? We are you. We can identify with you. Today, we're going to show you what the shift looks like and how to actually stay there once you've made it.
Yeah, right on. So we're going to get real with you today. You know, working in the business might feel necessary because it is, right? The business has to go on. And oftentimes, you are the one starting out that does it all. But when everything runs through you, you stop being the builder. And what happens is that you become the bottleneck. And that's what we want to highlight for you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know you did not tune into this episode of The Big Life to be called The Bottleneck, but the reason Robin shares that is because we love you, we care about you, we believe in you, and sometimes we have to start with that reality, with where we currently find ourselves. And here's a reality. Many of us can recognize the feeling of being the builder, but then also being the bottleneck, and it can feel noble, right? Being the hero, being the glue. But here's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Hustle will build a living, especially in hustle culture. And Robin and I, we often talk about hustle culture. So hustle will build a living, but leadership builds a legacy.
That's it. That's it right there. And here's what most people miss, Neal. You don't rise by grinding harder. You rise by thinking higher. I remember when my coach said to me years ago, Neal, Robin, your business will never outgrow your thinking. And thinking higher requires space. We have to have margin, we have to have clarity, and we have to have strategy. And that's what we're talking about today.
Quick question, Robin. Your coach tells you your business is never going to grow bigger or higher than you're thinking. How did you receive that at the time?
Yeah, it's sobering. First of all, it's stopped and you're like, whoa. I mean, so are you saying my thinking is not? But then, the reality sets in about the truth to that. So yeah, it doesn't happen. And so it might not land where somebody takes that on today if they just heard it for the first time.
Right.
But I think after thinking about it and recognizing that there was, like my business literally outgrew me, Neal. It got to a place where
You're looking around for answers, and everybody's looking at Robin for answers.
I had to stop and recognize that it had outgrown me, no question, and my thinking.
And so here's where we find ourselves now, and here's where Robin found himself, and I did as well. If you feel like you're constantly busy, but nothing's truly changing, this episode right here about working on the business and not in the business, this one is for you 100%.
Right on. And today, folks, we're going to be talking about 4 anchors to lead on the business and beyond, right? 4 anchors. And so anchor number 1 is to buy back your time, because we know that we know that you're busy people. We are busy people. We're not twiddling our thumbs. If you're a business owner, if you're a leader, you're not twiddling your thumbs. You got stuff to do. In fact, you probably got more stuff to do than you got time.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you have to do, one of the things that Neal and I have to do, is we have to buy back our time. So this is step 1. So what we want you to consider here is to ask yourself, what am I doing that someone else could do 80% as well, or even better, if they had the right training? So what am I doing that somebody else could do it? They don't have to do it as well. If they can do it at least 80% as well as what you do, if they get the proper training, that's what we want you to think about.
Robin, once again, you always start out with this hard stuff, but necessary. So we're going to have to let go of some of this, right? Control. And now, for those of you who are already delegating, listen up, because there's a deeper level to this. If you've handed off the task but not the outcome. So if you've handed off the task, but not the outcome, you haven't delegated. What you've done is you've delayed. So we want you to hand off the task and the outcome, because Robin just mentioned if they can do it 80% or better. And Robin, you know what I found is that oftentimes people can do it 80, 90, 110% times better than I can. So we don't want to just delay. We want to actually delegate.
Yes, it's so true. And there's some of those things, and I think they need to hear this also. There's some of those things in your business that even if it's not better than you, even if it really is just 80%, what we're talking about here is those things where that task, doing it at 80% of what you do, won't make much of an impact on your business in comparison to the ones where you can really focus on and make a difference in your company. But coming back to what we're saying here, if you're in regards to delegating, I love what Neal just said, because people are probably already in that process of delegating. But if you are the one that still has to follow up, and you're the one that's still correcting, and you're the one that maybe is redoing, that's not leadership. That's management. That's management on repeat. And we're not talking about management here. We're talking about leadership. Right, Neal?
Absolutely. And so, Robin, this is, as you speak, I think the idea of buying back our time. If you want to buy back your time for real, you've got to build trust. And here's what trust looks like in the area and the arena that we're talking about. You have to transfer ownership. All right. So if we're serious about doing this thing, we have to build trust and transfer that ownership, not just actions, right? Not just the task, but the authority over those tasks and the results.
That's so true. And so anchor 1 is buying back your time. And I know that we're talking about things here that in the reality is you're going to be practicing these things. You're going to be building upon these things as you go along. So make sure you're writing these down. We might even make sure, Neal, to have this in the show notes for them, that you can be working on this as towards working on the business and not in the business. So The second anchor is to build systems that work without you.
That part, Robin. Repeat that one more time.
We want you to build systems that work without you.
Oh.
See, some of you have systems, but what we want you to do here is ask yourself this question. Would this process still work if I went on vacation? Right,
Robin,
Neal?
so many of us, we love the idea of vacation, but the idea of vacation scares us because everything we built would fall apart, right? So let me say this plainly. A true system works without your presence and improves through your leadership. So what Robin is talking about, this system that we want is for it to work without your presence. So we're not here, but it improves through your leadership. And this is not that management on repeat that Robin just referred to.
Yeah. So a telltale here is that if every answer starts with "ask me," or if every problem ends with "I'll handle it," then you're not systematizing. You're not systemizing, right? You're babysitting. And I know, Neal, you don't like me to use those kind of words. It might sound heavy to our listeners today, but in other words, you're hand holding, you're micromanaging, you're it's still dependent upon you, right? You have
Now,
another word for that, sir? By the way.
no, that's as nice and as succinct as we can put it. And here, let me ask you this question, Robin. What qualifies you to speak honestly and blatantly and lovingly to the audience about this?
Why you like to put a stab in the wound, man? I mean, I've lived this in so many ways. In fact, I can tell you still today, I'm not the systems guy. Like, meaning that it's not, you have some people that they can see a process and
Yeah.
that they can very quickly and very easily put together a system. I have a struggle with that. That doesn't flow naturally for me, but I understood the importance of it. So I actually struggled through this process, Neal. That's the reality. And yeah, and but I have gone through that and improved to the place where things could carry on without me necessarily being there. And so I've seen it work as well.
And we have gotten to enjoy the benefits of going through the process of actually being able to take vacation, of being able to do those big things, those vital few functions that only Neal and Robin can do. That's going to have a greater impact on the business, but then also our livelihood. And so here's the breakthrough. And so I put Robin on the spot because he and I, we experience very much of the same thing in our businesses. But your systems should create a few things, and that's going to be clarity, consistency, and confidence. So if you don't have a system that creates clarity, consistency, and confidence, you just have a checklist. You don't have a system.
Yeah, and we don't want you to have just checklists, because remember, you don't rise to the level of your ambition. You rise to the strength of your systems.
Now, that's a hard line because and so anytime I hear about rising and falling, I'm often thinking about the Marines. They say you don't rise to the level of, or you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your training, right, to the level and the quality of your training. And so I think many of us as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we got into this thing to be galvanizers, to be visionaries, and it's not necessarily to be a systems person. So that's good news with those first two anchors. But I'm just going to share this anchor number 3. And this is one that is dear to our hearts here on the Big Life Podcast. It's something that we are chasing after. It's something that Dr. Maxwell has instilled in us, I think, at a granular level. And anchor 3, when we talk about working on the business and not in the business, is develop leaders, not just helpers. So we don't want to have a business, a company, an environment of helpers. So anchor 3 is to develop leaders, not just helpers. And this one's for the seasoned owner who's built a team, but still carries the pressure, right? They feel that thing on their back, Robin, that you see it in their face, you hear it in the conversation, where we have a team, but all of that pressure, that weight, that responsibility is unjustly on them by their own doing.
So here's what we want you to hear with this one, folks. If your team executes really well, but they don't lead, you've just got followers, not leaders, and that's not sustainable. So
So,
for an organization to continue to grow in a sustainable manner, it actually needs to have more leaders within the organization. And so this is so key. I agree with Neal. This anchor number 3 is so key that it holds people back, it holds companies back.
yeah.
So what we're talking about here is developing leaders.
Robin, I want to just pause here and just ask a question. I know we didn't discuss this when we were talking about the episode and when we were outlining our ideas, but it just came to me. If I'm the owner and now you're telling me that I've built a team and they're executioners in a good way, right? So they're doing the things, but so much of my ego is tied to me being the leader, right? Me being the one that everyone comes to. And now you're saying, no, Neal, be a leader of leaders, not of followers. What if that's where I find my value, my worth? Putting out those fires. We talk about being that glue, about being the hero. Like that's a hard thing for us to deal with. So how have you have you ever experienced that? Because I know I have personally in my business. And then how do we deal with that?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Neal. You ask good questions, by the way. I was listening to a recent podcast of ours, and I recognize that that's something that I say a lot to you on our shows. That's a good question. And you ask good questions, sir. That's the reality. But yeah, I've definitely found myself there, and I find a lot of people there. And it's okay. Here's what I would say, first of all. It's okay. If you only want to be at a certain level, and you're happy and you don't want to go any further, then it's okay. It's okay to
That's
be to
big.
stay there.
Hold
And
on, Rob, right there.
the only thing,
That is a big thing for you to communicate to the audience, because Robin and I, we have aspirations, we have ambitions, but don't let our ambitions or aspirations for everyone, maybe change or skew your vision, your goals, your dream. Now we're here to encourage you, but Robin, I think what you just did right there is huge. I think it's bigger than either we recognize in the moment, or maybe even our listeners understand.
and the only word of caution that I would give, and thank you for the acknowledgement, and I agree, there, that is, everybody's not the same. Some people might just want to, they're happy right where they are doing what they do. And that's a good thing. Nothing wrong with that either. The only word of caution that I would add to that for that person is to recognize that a lot of times what happens is that you don't usually stay in the same place. Is that what ends up happening is you actually go downwards.
Yeah.
Like a lot of practical things. Why that happens is number one, the problems still keep going on, and so you're continue to be busy, and you continue to have to be putting out fires, and you continue to have to be doing a lot of the stuff that's needed in order for things to be sustained. But then another practical thing that actually happens is you're going to have people on your team, and it's usually the better people, the more productive people on your team, the leaders who want more. They're people who are going to want more. And oftentimes, if they're in a place where the leader doesn't want more, like in this case, the owner is not wanting to continue to grow. And what happens is they go find other places, they leave. And
Out of
so
here.
yeah. And so what happens is it makes it more difficult for you to actually maintain. I just want to put that word of caution out there, Neal, but it's a good,
Yeah.
and we have the choice for that anyway. And some people like that. And that's okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, as we're looking at anchor number 3, develop leaders, not just helpers. Big key here. You've got to ask the question, who can cast vision without me? I think that's a great place to start. Great question to ask. Who can cast vision without me? Or then maybe we would go to who's owning results, not just tasks. And that's what Robin just mentioned. In many organizations, if you would just slow down and look at your people who's working, you're going to identify those people who are excited about owning the result, who's not just going through and doing the checklist. They're like, hey, I did this, and they're owning the result, whether it's good or bad. And then they're coming to you proactively, Robin, and saying, I think we can do this better. I think this worked. Could we implement or even entertain this idea? That's how you know you've got the right people and you have those leaders and not just helpers.
Yes, it's so true. And here's the quote that did it for me. If your team only moves when you push, you're not leading. You're dragging.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to say that Robin Lewis is a very nice guy. He is passionate about growth and development. So when you hear him use the quote that changed it for him, our hope is, our dream, our prayer is that something ignites in you, right? And so here's what Robin and I believe, and I think that we are, no, I know that we are evidence of this next statement, and that is that leaders build leaders, right? Robin and I lead because someone, a leader, helped build us, or let me say, leaders, plural, built us so that we can go be leaders of leaders and builders of builders. And multiplication, I know that's a word that we love in life. We don't believe in simply addition, Robin, but we believe in multiplication. It only happens when your people grow beyond execution and into ownership. Big word there, ownership and influence.
Ownership and influence is the key there for anchor number 3. And as we look at anchor number 4, we're going to talk here about create strategic thinking rhythms. This is where you are thinking about your business. If you're too busy to think, then you're too busy to grow. Vision, it needs space. And so do you. You need space.
Robin, and if I may quickly, I want to clarify something. What you're talking about when you say that vision needs space and that individuals, especially leaders, need space, you're not talking about an occasional retreat, right? Where once a year we go off in the wilderness, right? You need a rhythm. We believe in daily, but then also weekly space where you think on purpose, where it's not aimless thinking, but it's intentional thinking on purpose at a minimum weekly as a leader.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I met with a client the other day, and I was just a potential client, I should say. They became a client after this, but this meeting that I'm referring to was just a discovery session. Where we were just there to find out, what their goals were and what their challenges that they were experiencing, and so on. And just taking the time, we met for about an hour and a half, Neal. Just taking the time. One of the partners said to me, it's been worth it for us to just stop and take the time and think about some of the questions that you're asking us, because they weren't taking the time to do that. So what we're suggesting that you do here is you block off what we call CEO time, right? And where you're asking what's working, what's not working, where are we off mission? What's the next right thing for us to be thinking about, implementing, doing as an organization, right? You're thinking about the vision and moving it forward and the culture, and you're thinking about what's the next thing.
And so Robin and I, we don't take for granted that everyone is at the same place on their journey to working on the business and not in the business. So for our audience members who are already doing that, who are already taking that CEO time and thinking about the business, here's how we take it deeper. Here's how we go one step further. And that's, don't just think alone. think in partnership. Invite your leadership team. Hire a coach. Robin and I, we strongly believe, I would say swear by, but we strongly believe in the value of coaches. Your best clarity in our personal experience and our professional experience, that your best clarity will often come through conversation, not isolation.
Man, I can't tell you how beautiful that is, Neal. I mean, the reality is that I only have a certain perspective, right? Like I have strengths, I have weaknesses, I have a perspective on things that I bring that can be good and is good, but it's limited.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty, I think, of the partnership is as you bring other people around you, you're bringing additional perspective that you don't even see.
So Robin, here's what I want to do. So as we talk about working on the business, not in the business, as with everything in life, there are levels to this, right? So let's talk about when we thought, and that's a big word, when we thought we were working on the business, but we still felt stuck.
Yeah, it's a good point, and definitely been there, done that. There was a season where I had delegated. We had a good team. We had systems that we were implementing, and as I mentioned earlier, we kind of took a little time to build them. So the systems didn't come. That's just like that, but we built a strong team. We had good systems in place and we had delegation, but I still found myself being tired and still too involved. And you know what I realized is that I had not redefined my own role. I literally had to do this, Neal. And I remember reaching out to a consultant that I hired at the time to help me to kind of drill down now on what my role was. So I kind of got lost in the weeds around what I was actually supposed to be focusing on. I was still leading like I used to, but it wasn't exactly what the business needed, and who I needed to be in order to take it to that next level. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And so I want to ask, was this about the time when the business outgrew you as a leader, Robin?
This is even after that, Neal, when I'm really trying to get things together now. And so we had implementing. So the business outgrew me. I stepped back. I started to invest in my growth. I hired a coach and a mentor. I started, that led to me developing other people. That led to us putting systems and processes in place. And so we were already on our way with that. We were
Mm-hmm.
already heading back in the good direction when I'm describing to you what happened, because what happened then is that I didn't realize now that I needed to redefine my role as
Right.
well as this happened.
And that's the shift, ladies and gentlemen. So even as Robin was working through this, even as you find yourself might be in a similar situation, your business can't grow beyond your willingness to change how you lead, right? You can't be
Yeah.
the same leader tomorrow if you want the bigger, better, different, improved as you were yesterday. And
Neal,
I
you
think
nailed
that
it.
that realization is huge.
Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to communicate. You nailed it, sir. And I can tell you many times, I remember, Neal, and I won't share the boring details of this, but um, the point of it is that as I was trying to make that transition, I actually lost one of our key players because I wasn't actually sure how the relationship needed to be with this person, as I had brought in other leaders and we had, that. So my role is changing, and I didn't make the shift needed with dealing with this particular person, where they
Right.
felt like I had kind of just left them out now because I was sort of giving the responsibility and the ownership to somebody else. I needed to understand that didn't take away the responsibility of me connecting with them and
Right.
still having that relationship. And they still ask the three questions. Do you care about me? Can you help me? Can I trust you? And so that's an example. But once I started leading through people, not just around people, the ceiling lifted. I finally had space to focus on growth and to focus on relationships and to focus on impact.
And here's that's what we want for you, right? And so what we want for you is this, not just freedom from the business, but freedom through the business. Because what Robin and I believe, we believe that we have gifts and talents and that we have platforms that were given to us, afforded to us by our Father. And if we do this thing right, if we do this thing intentionally, that we can work on our business instead of in our business, and that's going to create some freedom. It's going to create opportunities that otherwise we wouldn't have. So Robin, before I get ready to just close us out, is there anything that you want to share that maybe we haven't said in our discussion today?
I think we've covered it well, but the only thing that I would say is just to encourage our listeners that you don't have to have it all figured out, right? I didn't have it all figured out. I'm talking now from experience because I have struggled through that. And so what I want to say to them is you just need to take the next step. So take a step from what we've shared with you today, wherever you are on that journey. What's the next? Figure out the next best step for you to take and just step in that direction.
That's a fantastic starting point. And so I am going to make an ask, but then also maybe this ask is going to encourage you. But if this episode challenged you, or maybe it just gave you language for what you've been feeling on the inside, don't just listen to Robin and I. Don't just listen to the Big Life podcast. Apply what you've heard, because that's where the difference, that's where the shift really happens.
Yeah. And so you've come too far to stay where you are, right? You heard that statement. You've come too far
Absolutely.
already to stay stuck in the weeds. This is your chance. This is your moment to lead differently, to step up, to step back, and to let your business become what it was meant to be.
And if I may say something in that same vein, Robin, I know that some people might get tired of our infectious positivity, but we want to remind you that you weren't meant to play small, right? You were meant to build what lasts. And that's how Robin introduced this episode. We are here to build what lasts.
Right on. And if you're ready to take that next step, we'd love to connect with you. And please send this episode to a fellow business owner or leader who needs it. We would appreciate that as well.
Because I believe, Robin believed that your gift is needed and that it is going to benefit the world.
Yes. And so we're here to encourage you to unleash it. What we talked about today will help you to unleash that gift that's inside you that others are waiting for. So let's go change the world, one act of belief at a time.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute privilege to be here. We thank you for the privilege of your time. Robin and I are going to leave you as we always do, and that is that we love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time we see you or you see us, we're right there with you.
Peace.
Peace.